Welcome everyone. We're just gonna wait a few minutes here while everyone connects to the program and look forward to having a great discussion today. We are very privileged to have a wonderful speaker with us. And I just think back on all the long history of Burbank Tech Talks events. It goes all the way back to 2015 when we started with the Burbank Tech Summit. And one of the speakers, much to his credit, suggested, rather than doing an annual summit or something, why don't you do more monthly events so the community can keep, building itself, supporting each other. People can network, perhaps meet a co-founder, meet an investor, and things can keep happening all the time. And so, we are definitely, community driven here. I have to give full credit to the wonderful team at the City of Burbank, Mary, Marissa, Megan, and all of their colleagues, past and present, who listened to community demand and said, "Hey, let's do this. Let's get this Burbank Tech Talk series going, on a regular basis." And we've done so many events over the years. I've lost count now. It's just been so much fun. Whether it's having Sand Hill Road, BC, like Sargur from CRV, or Warner Brothers, Chief Digital Officer Thomas Gawecki from Burbank, everyone in between. We've had a lot of fun discussions over the years, and really excited about today's wonderful featured speaker. We'll get into the program just a little bit here. Obviously, we have an amazing discussion ahead of us, I'm sure. But I just want to also, before we get started, just mention, check your inboxes if you haven't seen it already. I'm really excited to say that the City of Burbank has launched an official Burbank Tech Talks newsletter now. Kudos to the whole team there that did a beautiful work on the design and everything. And we throw out, shout out the first issue to how Burbank is helping lead the revolution in the whole NFT space. So I'll say good morning to everyone, but GM, as they like to say in the NFT land, good morning to any NFT fans out there. Some of Burbank's media giants have already aped in, as they call it, in the NFT world, and really are helping lead the way. We actually have one of our past speakers, Michael Yanover from Creative Artist Agency, who's leading a very exciting NFT drop with a very big name celebrity. I won't mention the name yet; it hasn't dropped yet. But community of Burbank Tech Talks speakers, and surely attendees too, is very involved in this whole new brave Web3 world. So anyway, we have a little intro to that in the newsletter. If you haven't seen it yet, it can be intimidating to certainly figure out all the new intricacies of an ecosystem that is still very much in its infancy too, in some ways. And we want to feature opportunities, partnerships, hiring needs from the community in the newsletter too. So definitely reach out, reply back, send me an email, or send the Burbank Economic Development Team an email if you're looking to hire for a particular position. You're looking for business partnerships. You have a success story you think should be featured. We want to celebrate, all of you in the Burbank entrepreneurial community and help each other out, be sort of like a bulletin board for the community to share needs and opportunities. So definitely reach out, and we've got another issue we're working on coming out not too long, actually. So definitely excited about that. So anyway, today, again, just want to say, I may be the one you see up on screen here, but the real credit goes to the incredible team at the City of Burbank. Up here, I'm privileged to work on a whole variety of events with speakers. A lot of them from San Francisco, from the Bay Area, where cities don't always roll out the red carpet for startups. You hear about the folks really being turned off. I mean, it really is special that Burbank does this. They want you, to build and grow your company in Burbank, and I really hope that you do. It's an amazing, team at the city. Reach out to them. You can see their details on the the economic development site. their contact info. They're there to help you if you need any help with all their resources. And eventually, if you're gonna be building out a huge team, in the area, definitely doing it in Burbank. So, real shout out to the city for making this series possible and supporting the ecosystem. And without any further ado, I do just want to say, one of the neat things about the Burbank ecosystem is that it's not an island. The whole Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena area is really its own special thing. And of course, Pasadena Angels, our speaker today, we'll be hearing from Dave shortly. They're a whole region-wide group across Southern California. I mean, they really do have a special culture, I think, amongst all the angel groups out there. But we love particularly that they are in the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena region, with their name, even though they have a region-wide impact. So we're very excited to finally get you, Dave, to join us here, at Burbank Tech Talks. Just for those of you who don't know his background, he is himself someone who spans the world. I guess you could say, use Mark Sister's term, both sides of the table, yes, but maybe even more than two sides of the table. As an investor, as a serial entrepreneur, as an executive with some very interesting, giants out there. Everyone from Discovery Channel to Turner and everyone in between, and he has his mind around everything from biotech to crypto. And I don't know, Dave, how you keep on top of everything. I can't manage to get on top of bio. We did have Leonard Perkins, former head of biotech, speak a while back, but that alone could seemingly take up all one's time. So anyway, I want to hear how you do it, and stop pontificating myself here. So I'm gonna jump in, but just want to say, we're not in the room together. Hopefully we'll be back all together soon with live events. But we would all be applauding you, thanking you at this point for joining us, because we know your time is super busy, and really glad to have you here. So Dave, I want to jump in. For those who haven't read up too much on Pasadena Angels, give us the elevator pitch, if you will, about what makes it such a special group, which I know it is.
Well, thanks, David, and thanks for having me on this chat. We are a special group. I've been a member now for about 7-8 years. We are celebrating our 21st year, so we really came along in the year 2000. And if you think about it, we were one of the first angel groups in California, and so thereby in the country, since California is a real mover on investment. And we pride ourselves on really attracting quality companies, not just in Southern California, but now more around the country. I like to tell our members, I like to think of us as the Green Bay Packers or the Dallas Cowboys of the angel investment world. Like we have that national standing, or at least with Green Bay, we're in a small market here, and we can get overshadowed by our bigger brother and sister organizations, more in the center of LA or down in Orange County. But we have a way of attracting a lot of terrific startups, and we've been fortunate to not only learn a lot from these startups and these great entrepreneurs, but also make money along with them and being their partners. And so, that goes to the credit of the many that came before me, and I'm just trying to continue that attitude, that characteristic that we have, that startups do find us. So to give you a little bit of a elevator pitch on the Pasadena Angels, we have about 105, 110 members right now. We invest about $5 million a year into startups that come to us. That is about, I want to say, about 16 to 18 companies each year that we invest in, with an average deal size anywhere between 150,000 all the way up to about 450,000. About 25% of that investment of $5 million is attributed to our fund. it's a great way of engagement for our members. Our members, will invest individually, and if it gets enough interest from our members individually, they have to meet the metrics of 4 or 5 different members at 100K plus, then it qualifies for a vote from our fund. And so that is, most of our members are participating in our fund, and that's so that they don't miss out on that thing that maybe the timing wasn't right for an individual investment, or they didn't really understand that as much, but the fund then would kick in a check of about 100,000. So for our startups, they see that as a little bit of a pinball hitting the bonus round. Great, I've got 150,000 of investments from 6 or 7 Pasadena Angel investors, and that puts me to a vote for the fund, and then the fund would kick in another 100,000. So that serves 2 purposes. One, to give a little bit extra oomph to those entrepreneurs coming in and wanting to raise money, and it makes us more relevant and more valuable to their efforts. And number 2, it helps me internally have engagement with all of our members, because if they're not investing, if they're not one of those 6 to 8 investors throwing in 15 to 25,000 each, then at least they have a part of that. Either they have 1% of that fund investment, so it is relevant to them. And so I want to just, and I want to also let you know, our members really span different professions. And so we feel, although we're a volunteer organization, we're able to take advantage of a terrific educational institution just behind me by about a quarter of a mile, Caltech, and of course a lot of great minds coming out of JPL, which is a mile in front of me. And there's in the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena area, there's just so many great folks coming out of some of the big corporations based in Burbank. We've got former media executives from Warner Brothers who are now our members, finding us and offering us such terrific expertise, so that when media companies come to pitch to us, we can not only pepper them with questions and make sure they're on the right track and decide for ourselves whether it's a good investment, but if we do invest, we become a valuable resource for them, and make sure that they're on the right path. Many times our members get asked to be on their boards, or at least we serve as advisors to them. And so there's many great advantages for startups to come to us, and there are also advantages to become a Pasadena Angel member, so that you can experience the expertise of that all of our members offer, as well as offer your own expertise.
And do you get multiple votes as chairman of Pasadena Angels on the fund decisions?
No. We're a very democratic process. We'll get about 35 submissions a month of companies that come our way, of which then we'll immediately knock it down to 20. Some things we just don't do, screenplays. Sorry, we're not interested. Cannabis, cannabis, alcohol, we just, we're kind of more traditional, and we like to, keep it to areas where we can really have an impact. Another few are really ideas that are still in the garage, kind of not ready for prime time, as I like to say. But then we'll get to those 15 companies and we'll put them through investment panels. And Rebecca Stokes, our executive director, will tailor these panels and draw from expertise from our various members to interview these companies. And then from those 15, we'll cull that down to about 6 or 8 companies, which will then come and present to us within 20-minute presentations. And then we'll have a good number. We'll have maybe 30 of us Pasadena Angels on that call, and then we'll vote those 7, 8 companies into our top 2 to 3 companies to present even at a longer format once a month. So we feel like we're getting the best of the best. Do we always get it right? Absolutely not. Occasionally we miss something that maybe gets knocked out in that round that goes from 7 to 2. However, we think we've done a pretty good job, and we've had some great successes, and we'll stand on our track record.
And Pasadena Angels itself, is it set up as a nonprofit itself?
Yeah, we're a 501(c)(3). We're a nonprofit.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's the real world out there. A few years ago, there was a lot of brouhaha about how some angel groups were pay to pitch, and were not as entrepreneurial friendly, perhaps. It seems like that maybe gets less headlines. I don't know. Jason Calacanis made a big ruckus years ago, and maybe succeeded. I don't know in improving the culture out there. But founders should be aware that maybe not every angel group out there is the founder's friend, like Pasadena Angels is, right?
Well, yeah, no, we that behavior we would never accept. And we like to think every deal that comes to us is coming to us naturally. I mean, do we hear from our friends up from the Band of Angels or down at San Diego, and they might refer a company to us, but we assume that they're coming to us because those members or those groups have made an investment for all the right reasons, and then we'll take a look at that company if that round is still open. The same way, if we see value in a company and they're raising a $1.5 million round, and they've already raised 400,000, and we're able to put in 300,000, that would leave 800,000. And do we like to have fellow investment partners that we know? Absolutely. So then I'll call my friends at TCALA or OC or up at Band of Angels or up in Seattle and say, hey guys, this is worthy. We've seen great value in this. We'll share our due diligence and think about if this makes sense for you. So especially in this time of COVID where people aren't, settling on one spot, it's more valuable to syndicate, for lack of a better word, and to be in bed with partners that and you trust. And they're individuals with those organizations. I would bet my life on would always do the right thing and are not looking to make anything from it, and nor should they, and that goes without saying.
Awesome. And I do want to mention, those of you in the audience, feel free to submit some questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen when I get to those later in the discussion here. But, just curious, Dave, when you think about the perspective you have, what are some of the most common mistakes that founders who are approaching you personally or Pasadena Angels more broadly make? Certainly being at the wrong stage, being the wrong type of company is an obvious one. But what kind of lessons can people avoid, repeating without having you have to name anyone by name?
Right. Well, I would say be certain about what you're asking for, and also, be very specific as to what you would use the funds for, because these are the questions that we're really going to dig into. Obviously we want to make sure that if we do contribute, if we do make our investments and totals, whatever it totals, that it's not going to be paid back loans that the founder has made. It's all under the assumption, and we make sure of that this is going towards growing the business, and having really a set team in place that can strategize and really make good use of those funds that when that investment is made. I would say when I started making angel investments myself, I put more emphasis on the product itself, and is that product differentiating itself from what else is out there. I would say that still remains true, but now I put even more of an emphasis on that team, and specifically that founder, because we're always going to come to forks in the road where small businesses have to make decisions as to what path that they take, and you're going by the ethics they have, just the good business judgment that these founders have, and sometimes experience can speak to that. Sometimes it's education. We look forward to coming out of COVID so we can spend more time face to face with those founders and really get a sense of that this person is going to make the right decisions for their organization. You look at some well-known examples, Amazon's, just taking on Borders and Barnes and Nobles and just selling books, and obviously look what that's become. So things don't always start out where they're going to go, and you look at the team, you look how aggressive that founder is. We want to make sure that founder doesn't treat this as a lifestyle business, or something that, hey, I'm gonna do good in the world and I'm going to slowly grow this. We want them to really have that edge, like they're a hungry dog that wants to take a pound of flesh out of out of the competitor. And we want to make sure that they grow. And we want to make sure that that founder has a real exit strategy in mind. We are angels. We do want to help out these entrepreneurs, but we want to make sure that they have an end game, because we don't want this investment to go on forever.
Of course. It seemed like, there's a very interesting blog post Bill Gurley at Benchmark had over the years, but it seemed like for a while the IPO, or the other exit, horizon kept getting pushed back further and further. And it certainly must have made a lot of, VC funds not too happy because they couldn't get their, exits in time, their horizon, to get back to their own investors, their limited partners. It's something where I'm sure you see certain founders, aside from just the general market trends, have companies which may be incredible companies, but aren't really as well suited to an angel fund investment or a VC fund investment, where that exit is important. It's not like you're, building a business which, may have great revenue, but wouldn't be suited for a huge exit. Do you, as an angel yourself or any of your members, ever sort of do, non-VC type investments where you're maybe investing in a company that you're just in it for the revenues share or what have you, or sort of that kind of investment model rather than the venture capital model, which depends on a big exit?
It's true. I've had experience in those kind of investments outside of angel investments. That's not so dissimilar to multifamily real estate, right? You put in and the rents, hopefully, if you do your job right, keep going up.
Right.
Then you're making decent revenue every month. Whether you own a single family home that you're renting out or a 30 or 100 unit apartment building, that's a good model. As far as what we look at Pasadena Angels, no, we pretty much don't look at that revenue year over year. We do circle what that exit could be and what it should be.
But personally, you've obviously have done the real estate side, and I assume some of your members do these kind of things on the side, perhaps. But I'm just wondering, sometimes you have people come to us and with an interesting company idea. Say they want to open up a hot new restaurant in Burbank or something. That's not going to be the right fit for a venture investment or something. But I guess it takes a different kind of investor you wouldn't find in the VC world, but maybe some of your members individually, just like you've done real estate investments,
Right.
do these other kind of investments on the side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've done that before. I've done, I've invested in, that's a family and friends thing. I think if you're a restaurant owner and you believe in yourself, then chances are your family and your friends around you would believe you too, or maybe it's a fellow person if you're part of a golf club or a tennis club or something like that. It's like folks who know you, who spend time with you, know that you're hardworking. That's kind of a family and friends investment type.
And I'm curious, some of the people who are joining us today may be interested themselves in getting into angel investing. What's the vetting process like for Pasadena Angels? So what do you tell folks who are interested potentially in joining? Do you only invite people in who've done a lot of individual angel investing themselves, or do you have people new to it?
Oh no, we absolutely have people that are new to it. Our organization, we're not just folks that sit around and hear presentations. Although as chairman, I always say it is my role, my job, my responsibility to put the best companies in front of our members. That is my job number one. And so that they can make their decisions to perhaps invest. If they don't invest, hopefully they learn something. But ancillary other activities that we do, if you become a Pasadena Angels member, we have terrific educational opportunities. We don't invest in cryptocurrency, but we'll have experts from USC come in and talk to us regarding, their view of cryptocurrency or the media landscape or blockchain economics. We had somebody just two weeks ago talked about the future and forecast for electric vehicles and the impact they'll have in the state of California and around the country. And so there's lots. I just feel my brain explodes, in a good way, with just all the knowledge that I take in from not only the entrepreneurs that we hear from and the new businesses that expose us to, but the other educational opportunities. And one other point I want to make too is that when I became a Pasadena Angel, I always thought I would learn mostly from these entrepreneurs and be exposed to it, as I said. But I've learned equally as much from my fellow Pasadena Angels. I might be sitting side by side with with an engineer that had worked on the Mars rover. And my God, the questions that they ask during, a presentation are far different than the questions I would ask. And then, getting to know whether it's an engineer or it's an IP attorney or it's an accountant. I learned so much from these folks, and it makes me a smarter investor overall.
That is definitely an advantage of joining a group rather than being a solo, angel investor on your own out there. Do you see yourself, competing for members, with those who might just do investments in other venture funds or, sort of be more hands off, or are you kind of overwhelmed with number of potential members?
We have as many members as we want. We're absolutely fine. Our door is open. If anyone was interested in applying to the Pasadena Angels or even looking at the Pasadena Angels, I encourage you to go to PasadenaAngels.com, if I can get that plug in, David. Also to those entrepreneurs, you would go to the same site if you were interested in applying for funding from the Pasadena Angels. We're always looking to hear from good companies and also, to attract good members. As I said earlier in the call, we attract a lot of members, obviously from this local community. Folks drive over from Calabasas or they drive up from Orange County. We have a good reputation out there. And as we're all coming out of COVID, we have one really nice in-person event every month, and that is our final presentations, where we have three best companies of that month present to us. And then we really just pepper them with questions. And if we like them enough, they'll, a week later, they'll be back to really sit down with us and go over their due diligence. And then we'll make our final decisions on investment. But on top of that, as we come out, we're also, planning on doing many more educational events. We had a seminar about understanding term sheets. You were speaking before about new members and whether we look for, current angel investors. And that's not the case at all. We're looking for, that we need experienced angel investors. That's not the case. We're looking for new members. We're looking for those who have experience and want a good forum for hearing new investment ideas. So all of the above.
Awesome. Well, let's get more into tips for founders then who are looking for angel investments or seed investments. Just backing up a little bit, looking at the ecosystem. You see so much money in the ecosystem these days. Everything from angel syndicates to seed funds galore. What would you say the advantages would be, or disadvantages, of going with different routes, of going with an angel group, whether it's you guys or another group out there, versus, just going for a seed fund or trying to collect, rolling funds, an angel syndicate, having some founders, try to have sort of hands-off investors, just add up a lot of small investors without any really big lead.
That's a good point.
What would you say the advantages and disadvantages of all those routes?
I'm glad you brought it up. And actually, I was just speaking with the president of TCA Orange County regarding this very thing. Angel investing is becoming a hotter and hotter thing. You see the increases of dollars contributed. I think last year was 25 billion, and it's expected to grow another 8 to 10% this year. We are being squeezed as angel clubs, quite honestly, by VCs who are kind of discovering that, hey, we don't want to just be in the business of raising money for A rounds and B rounds. They're trying, they're getting into our area of, where the valuations are, in the $10 million range. And that's really where we play as angel investment groups. We look, for the most part, our average, company valuation that comes to us might be, in the $6 to $10 million range. We'll go as high as 15 million, our group at least will. And we've also invested in companies with valuations as low as 2 to 3 million. But really our sweet spot is really in that 6 to 12 million dollar range. And what sets us apart there is really our expertise. I was telling you how terrific our members are. And if you find one of our members in your space, then having that person as an advisor, having that person being able to open their Rolodex to you is tremendous value. I mean, these entrepreneurs more so will have the option if it's a good startup and they have good numbers to support themselves and a good team, they'll have the options of getting those $1 million checks written by a VC to say, here you go. And then they'll say, we'll see you in 2 years and check how you're doing. That's an advantage, that, one check, it's easier than collecting from, 30 checks over, 4 different angel clubs. But at the same time, those 30 different checks or those 30 different participants could be a real value to opening yourselves up for, greater expertise and even introductions to serious Series A investors. If those startups get involved just with one check coming in, guess what? They're going to get beaten down a little bit by that, one investor. And, I think you mentioned before, there is an advantage to having lots of smaller investors as, the founder still feels like they have, control over their company. And as angel investors, we wouldn't be investing if we didn't feel like that team really had control over their space and could really make a difference and strategize on their trajectory.
That's a good point, because I mean the venture world really is a relationship game. In many ways, some are trying to change that because they don't want only those in the network, in the old boys club, if you will, to be able to tap into Sand Hill Road, firms, what have you, for later rounds. But it does seem like having a band of people who are incentivized to cheer you on, because they're literally invested in your success, can definitely help open doors when the next doors, on Sand Hill Road or what have you, are ones that are best unlocked through relationships. So that speaks to the advantage of having a lot of great angels on your team rather than some hands-off, seed fund that doesn't give you any attention.
It's smart money, money that's going to also get involved in your business and help you grow, as opposed to maybe, one big check that might, that would be a little bit more hands-off and not, kind of lose you in the shuffle because they've got, 50 other $1 million checks they wrote. They look at you more like a lottery ticket than something that they really want to be involved with. So
our very first TechFire speaker was the then head of SV Angel, Ron Conway, of course, is very famous as a super angel for having broken down doors to help his founders, at all times of the day. And I my sense is his great influence was at its peak, perhaps maybe a little earlier, but he's really shown the way, I think, for a lot of folks, and how advantageous it is to have a real angel on your side in all senses of the word, helping you along in your startup's path. So we've made the case for why you want to do it. Let's talk a little bit more for founders out there who are a little mystified, a little scared about how to do it. One thing, again, to really underline, I guess, is you have to find the right time to do this. People, I gather, should not be coming to you when they are really more in the friends and family stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes folks will come to me early and before applying and say, Dave, can you look this over and just see if I'm ready, if I have a chance of getting funded? And I'll look through their presentation, I'll understand the concept, and then I'll tell them, quite honestly, I said, I think you might get to that, you might be in our top 15, but you would never get to your top 2 or 3 because your idea is still not played out yet. The competition is fierce out there to get our funding or to get any funding. We might have 3 companies come to us, and all 3 could be funded, or it could be, or 3 presenters could be at the end of the month and present to us, and nothing would get funded. So it's case by case. We look at each company. Not everything has to be funded each month, but at the end of the day, I think I mentioned earlier, we do end up funding about 16 to 18 companies a year, and then we'll do about 9 or 10 follow-on investments too, as companies come back and they're in between us and a Series A, or they might be in their Series A. We'll have that chance to tack alongside that VC as that Series A gets filled.
And you guys don't reserve capital for later rounds beyond that, do you? Or?
Well, we encourage, those founders, we would insist that they come back to us and give us the opportunity to invest in that Series A. And almost always they do. Occasionally they'll run into a VC who would say, I just want to do this myself, and I don't want any previous investor money in there. That happens, but for the most part, founders do kind of carve their way out for us to also be involved. Some of my mentors at the Pasadena Angels who've been doing this, much longer than I have, I see that they've made a ton of their money, on furthering their investment, on splitting aces and eights. If you're going to do it once, you're going to do it again and again, because it just makes sense. You've already invested in the team. You spent enough time with them. So if they come to you at a valuation of 5 million initially, and they've achieved all their metrics, and now they've got a round at 15 or 20 million, and it's partly getting funded mostly by a VC, maybe you would be part of that round, because if it makes sense at 5 million, you've kind of de-risked it, and now you're looking at that 15 to 20 million dollar range, thinking that in 3 to 4 years this could be a business that sells at 100 million. So
backing up again, let's say founder has achieved some traction, they've maybe even gotten some revenue, they've proved that they have even product market fit. What's the best way to approach you and your colleagues? Is it really through going to the website, or when you look at the deals you've done, is it really something where they've tended to be referrals from past entrepreneurs you've worked with or members? When you think what really has been successful for applicants before, what does that look like?
I would say it's about 50-50 from those that come via referrals as to those who just kind of find us cold. Again, we've got a good reputation out there, so folks do find us from various forums, maybe from this forum, I hope so, that they would just come, and apply. But however, I might get a phone call from, as I said, another angel club, or or individual investor that would, or even Alliance of SoCal is a very valuable organization. Sometimes they introduce companies to Series A investment, and sometimes they would call me and say, these guys aren't ready for us, but we love this company. We think that they're ready for you, and take a look at them. And I will say, really determine, we usually invest in companies that have some revenue. We're in the business of scaling up companies. And so a typical investment might be a company that's doing, I don't know, $200,000 to $500,000 of annual revenue, maybe more. And then a valuation of 6 to 8 million. Their round might be between 1 and 1.5 million, something like that. That's where we play. Not to say as I mentioned before, we've invested in companies that are 10 to 14 million before. Obviously, we expect the risks to be taken out of those kind of companies, and the revenue to be pretty significant in the $1 million plus range. And then, of course, there's also medical devices and life science companies or pharmaceutical companies occasionally that would say, we're developing this. There's absolutely no revenue, but it's a big lottery ticket if it pays off. But we're not expecting revenue because we realize how much research and development goes into something like that.
Totally. And I'm really glad you mentioned the Alliance for SoCal Innovation. And there's actually another event that they are putting on in partnership with Burbank Tech Talks on November 18th. So I want to have everyone in our audience join us for that too. I'll put the link in the chat in just a little bit here. But just want to also ask you again. So folks don't reinvent the wheel. What other lessons have you seen from all your years of angel investing on what some of the other mistakes and road bumps that founders get into that they could avoid?
Well, I'll get into the founder mistakes, but I'll just start off with investor mistakes, and that is don't get too excited about any one thing. As an angel investor, even myself, I invested a little bit too much probably on the first few companies I saw, because you do get excited. But the point is, and all the folks that I look up to and my mentors in the investment world is just constantly reiterating, stay diversified. So, for my own self, if it was like an investment of like, I love this company, I want to put 30 to 50,000, and my mentors would say, slow down, maybe 10 to 15,000, and spread your investments out over the course of a year. And look at various different trends. And sometimes the founders, they don't strike you personally, but you have to separate your personal feelings for a founder about being a very nice person versus a real, go-getting guy or girl, and say, you know what, this person, I think they can make me a lot of money, or this team can make me a lot of money, even if I don't like the way that they talk or that they look or something like that. You have to, separate that out and just say, are they ethical people? Would they, they rather chew off their right arm than ever tell a lie? Those are the type of folks that we're looking for, and of course that they're hard workers. Now, for the founder's perspective, I would say just, be prepared. I go teach a class once a month with PCC, Pasadena City College, and a lot of they're in their entrepreneurial club over there. And we go through the presentations that we see in that morning screening meeting. And it's interesting. And I let them know, saying, these founders, they didn't really think this through because they didn't provide a competitive landscape. We catch founders that are so myopic and they don't really see what else is out there. They're so married to their product. It's like playing Texas Hold'em. If you're so married to your two jacks and you forget about everything else that's out there, you're going to be a loser sometimes. You have to let the investors know that you see the entire landscape, you see what's competitive out there, you see that Amazon or Google could put a dozen people in a conference room and a week later come out with something that's far better than what you've got. You've got to set yourself apart. You've got to showcase what your special sauce is, and sell that through to the investors and why your team can only accomplish that.
And what's the percentage like, of companies that succeed, versus that don't? I mean, it's to be successful in this business as an investor, you can have most of the investments fail, right, and only a few, make the fund or make it worthwhile.
Yeah, we like to think we got a decent track record at Pasadena Angels. It's constantly changing, but I would say, 40 to 50% aren't going to make money or aren't going to get back to, what you've invested in. But then, another, say that 50 to 80% are going to get you, 1x to 3x. And then there's that 20% that's going to get you, 3x to 40x. You really can have those winners. We just had an exit 2 months ago from a great little company up in Santa Barbara, Parent Square. If you want to type it in, it's all one word. And they build a software platform that connects schools with parents. And so it's kind of one-stop shopping that schools can communicate, whether a teacher communicating to an individual student or a school communicating that, hey, we have a snow day, or and set up a platform for conferencing. It's one-stop shopping. And when we started out, they just had the Santa Barbara School District. And now 5 years later, they have 30% of all California school districts. So maybe some of you have heard of that. And they're also active in not just in California, but in New York, Connecticut, Indiana. So spread nicely across the country at about 25% market share in those states. So I bring that up because they start small. They had a little bit of traction with a few school districts. They were building out their development team. and they did, and as their product really, they spent the time working on their product, building it brick by brick, and it was impressive to schools, and their retention rate is just unbelievable at 98% of schools every year re-sign up for their program.
Amazing.
And, yeah. So there's some great examples out there, and that those founders really knew the landscape. They knew that nothing else was out there. They knew that they played in a kind of a boutique situation where nobody was doing exactly what they were doing, and they had a real sell to those school districts that was very appealing. And they really sold us on that, and thankfully they were successful. And that actually ended up being a 12x return in just 5 years' time. So we were happy about that.
Wow. Do you see, is it still the case that the return horizon's quite long, or did the whole SPAC craze and all that, speed up the exit, ecosystem in general? Or
yeah, it's like I think the COVID has kind of sprinkled a little bit of steroids on some of these companies, and some of these companies, quite honestly, COVID has just killed. I'd have to tell all the restaurant owners out there how tough that's been. But some of these companies that have dealt with, we have a company down in the west side of LA, Culver City, called My Lab Box, and they do at-home testing for sexually transmitted diseases when we first invested in them, and they had monthly revenue of about 40,000. But when COVID hit, who wanted to go to a Quest or a LabCorp for blood testing, or their doctor's office for testing? So at-home testing became a real big thing, whether you're testing for the flu or strep throat, and they got into these various areas after starting out just in sexually transmitted diseases. And then of course COVID testing was of course a boon, but everybody was doing that. So that's an area where pay attention to what the trends are, and some of these companies can really hop on that fast train, and now their revenue is up to about 300,000 a month from that 40,000 when we initially invested.
Wow. Amazing. Do you counsel founders who might be tempted, to keep going forever, on their amazing revenue?
They'll hear from us.
Remember your investors, it is time to think about an exit. Does that ever become an issue?
Right. They don't even have to hear from us. If they progress well enough, they'll get into that Series A. They'll get, and then those VCs will bring a bigger hammer to get out. So they don't need to hear from us.
The world. Yeah, totally. Well, I want to. I have some more questions I want to come back to myself, but I want to make sure to jump in with some audience questions. One of our, wonderful members of our community who joined us last month to speak, Amy Breyer, has been kind enough to return here as an attendee. Amy, thank you again. Last month was great. And that video is up on the website and in the newsletter. If any of you in the audience didn't see it, it's a great discussion. Amy says, if someone makes a preliminary cut, as an applicant to Pasadena Angels, but not the final cut, can they apply again, or is that not likely to work out? I know you do see with Y Combinator say sometimes people apply many years in a row and then they do succeed.
No, absolutely. We will, we'll say, give it 6 months. And many times we'll say to companies that come our way that don't make that final cut, certainly if they're in the final 6, we'll say to them, geez, you're just a little low on revenue right now and for what you're asking for. We'd like to see you get up from, 30,000 a month of revenue to 50,000 a month. And, but let's keep in touch. And usually one of our members will, follow back in a month or two saying, how are you doing that? Or it might not even just be about revenue. It might be, we'd like to see you have a chief marketing officer for this, or a CFO. We feel more comfortable, if you did that. So get around to that and we'll have you back. We'd like to have you back if you'll still want to come back. So it's a relationship that's formed. It's not always the case. I would say there's about 2 or 3 companies we say that to every month. And the rest we say, we're probably not the best fit for you.
Yeah, totally. And another question from a longtime valued member of the community here, Brian Allman, who has been on the entrepreneurial side and the angel investing side. He wants us to just to dive in a little bit more on the specifics of exit strategy. talk about an exit strategy. What length of time is typical for your expectation for exit? So when founders come to you,
Sure.
and they're preparing their deck and they're talking about who the potential acquirers would be, how many years out are they aiming for?
Well, I mean, first of all, whatever a founder tells you, just double it. Or their exits go.
Real life, yeah.
We are seeing, that's kind of 6 to 10 years. I mean, this 5-year exit we had with Parent Square. Actually, that Parent Square exit was interesting. There was a group out of a VC out of the Bay Area called Serent Capital, SERENT, and they went to Parent Square and say, we want to take all of your investors out, but Parent Square negotiated on the investors' behalf and said, you can take out a range between, you have to take out 1/3 of your investment, but we'll allow you to go all the way up to 100% of your investment. So those that wanted to take all their money off the table and get their 11.5x return, I should be absolutely accurate, you're absolutely free to do so. But many of us as angel investors said, you know what, we believe in you, Serent Capital, and we believe that you can, help build this to another 3 to 5x, even beyond, the $55 million valuation that you put on it. So many of us, you have the option of keeping your money in even at further rounds. And so, although we did have to take some off the table, which was nice. But I'm sorry, David, your question was?
Oh, Brian's question was just about the timeline there, specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
6 to 10 years. It's, usually, listen, we just made an investment a few months ago into a company out of Nashville, Tennessee, which I think will exit in about 2 to 3 years. Now they had about a $14 or $15 million valuation, but they're pretty much getting swallowed up by a huge corporate company that you would all know.
Wow.
And so we think that, it makes sense for that big company just to kind of acquire them, pretty quickly, because they're almost 90% of their revenue. And so it would make sense. And those discussions are ongoing. So there's no fast rule, but our typical investment period would be that 6 to 10 year period.
Interesting. Well, it's hard to believe, but holiday lights are already going up out there. 2022 will be here before we know it. And I'm curious what your predictions are, starting to look ahead to the market, or just thoughts now on where things have been. It's been an amazing, crazy time in the tech world. We all thought, or at least I did, it was the end of the world in March 2020, and it was, but rather than tanking, the tech world just went bonkers. It makes sense in retrospect. Everything went digital. It could, it had to, and so much money has come into the ecosystem. It's just been wild to watch. Do you see valuations continuing to go to the moon in 2022? Do you see, funds continuing to be poured into the tech world? Is this going to last forever? Or is there going to be, more sanity, pullbacks at some point? Where do you see things going from the, where the rubber hits the road in the mesh between VC and founder?
Well, I think our economy,
and
I think the startup economy, the startup universe is moving faster and faster. I tell my friends and my colleagues, I think it's like the snow, COVID has been like a snow globe. You're shaking it up, and different piles of snow are ending up in areas in the snow globe that you never thought would exist before. And you see how fast these companies are growing because of COVID, and how it's, you even look at the bigger companies like a Spotify or a Netflix, or, obviously Amazon is, gone bonkers, as you see these trends changing quicker and quicker, and whether going away from retail malls or going away from, more invested in home entertainment versus going to the theaters. Obviously commercial real estate is taking a big hit. So, what's replacing that? Home Depot's gone up through the roof as people are buying, home office furniture. So there's so much to pay attention to, and so much to be ahead of the curve. And some of these small businesses are taking advantage of that and seeing these trends correctly. And so I think it's never been a better time to be an angel investor and to pay attention to these trends. And I think the VCs are seeing the same thing too, and they're kind of, again, diving down into our area. And I think they'll be able to attract a lot of investment from their investors to as VCs are saying, we're looking more at seed investment, not just Series A. And I think that's attractive to everybody.
Is there too much money in the seed VC world?
I wouldn't have said so last year, but I think it's getting to that tipping point this year.
Yeah. And do you think we'll just naturally see that pullback as maybe those fund returns aren't as good because there's too much money out there? Or I guess that takes a long time,
It takes a while to turn that barge. So I see it still going forward. I think we're going to have some great, I know that we've got some great successes at Pasadena Angels. I looked through our fund portfolio, and although there's no liquid events, we see, companies that we invested in at $4 to $8 million valuations now at rounds of between $30 and $50 million valuations. So still not checks back in our pocket, but somebody else's, Series A and Series B and VC groups, and are making much bigger investments into those companies that we got into early. So we're optimistic. It's one of our members always tells me it's like bragging about your future grandkids. So, but we're optimistic that that these companies are going to turn out pretty well.
Are most of their exits acquisitions, or do you see IPOs or SPACs?
Fewer IPOs and mostly acquisitions.
Yeah.
And sometimes even just like the Parent Square example, just VCs coming saying, hey, we'll take over from here. Have a nice day and pay you out. So.
Well, that works.
Yeah,
What other, as we come to a close in a few minutes, what other words of advice would you have for founders out there? Maybe on the, execution side too, not just the pitching side. Once they've gotten, their money, what do they do wrong? What do they do right when they run with it?
Well, I mean, all this is common sense, spend your money wisely. But also I would say to founders, there's been a couple of companies that have disappointed me where founders come in and say, I want to learn from you all. I want to grow with you. And then, but once they get the money, getting them to give you a quarterly updates, are a little bit more difficult, for them to find the time. So I would say be earnest in the fact of, if you do want angel money, be prepared to, utilize them for your own benefit, for your own, they can see the holes covered with leaves, because many of our Pasadena Angel members have been in, situations. It doesn't have to be the exact business, but there's lots of help out there. I want to emphasize, I can't believe it's 11:58 and I'm only saying this, but on our our slogan is Pasadena Angels. It's more than just the money. And I really want to emphasize that, so I would say, to the founders, if you're really earnest about, growing your business and wanting that help, and you think that we can add value, not just on the money, then absolutely we're, soliciting an angel club investment is a way to go. And, you should be interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you. But if you know what you're doing and you think you know what you're doing, absolutely go to that VC, get that $1 million check. It's easier for you. And, you wouldn't have that burden of having 20 investors.
I want to make sure to get in an audience question here before we end. Very important topic about seeing a shift in VC investment and founders of color. Do you see the culture changing up in Sand Hill Road and the ecosystem fast enough pace that it needs to? Are we getting enough diversity amongst the Monday meetings amongst the boards, at these VC firms and such, and also in the angel world? Where are we on that, on making it a more equitable ecosystem?
Oh, it could always be stronger. And obviously, we're investors and we're going to make investments on what makes sense. To brag about the Pasadena Angel, we feel like we've done an excellent job. Currently we have 40% of our founders are women, and we have a great percentage of those founders who are of color. But our business schools are doing a fantastic job of really turning out great individuals and critical thinkers that are helping change these stats. And we're open to the world, and we love it when we see, diverse, kind of a more diverse startup community kind of start to take hold. And we want to be part of that as well.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great point to end things on. I know we're out of time here. I just want to, again, give a shout out. I put the link in the chat. It's also in the newsletter for folks to RSVP for the upcoming event, Partnership with the Alliance, on the 18th, on Thursday. It's going to be another great event. So definitely hope to have everyone attend there. And in the meanwhile, Dave, people want to reach you, should they ping you on Twitter, email you, or just go to the website? What do you recommend?
Email is fine. It's quite simple. It's Dave@PasadenaAngels.com.
Fantastic. Well, kudos to Stuart for posting that question in the chat and helping everyone out. Appreciate it, Dave. You're very kind to make the time. Really, great to have such a great angel group in the community here in the Burbank, Pasadena, Glendale area, and looking forward to a great year for your group and for all the founders and our community, who hopefully will be pitching you and getting through to that last, meeting and due diligence and going on to that exit strategy, we were talking about. So best wishes to everyone. Definitely huge thanks again to Mary, Marissa, Megan, and everyone on the team, the city of Burbank, and of course our partner, the chamber as well, and the Alliance, for all being part of supporting the ecosystem here. And definitely hope all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season out there too. So take care, everyone, and thanks so much again, Dave.
Thank you, David.
Bye-bye.